Okay, everybody, so this is my review of The Handmaid's Tale Season 4, Episode 4, Milk. This is directed by Christina Cho, written by J.C. Heldrick. I'm going to give a special shout out to the cinematographer of this episode, Berenice Avino, and as always, the composer, Adam Taylor. And the reason I'm mentioning them here is because I think they really were such an integral part to this episode, which I'll delve more into. This episode really centers on Rita and Janine. So I'm going to actually break down my review. We'll start with Rita's side of the episode, and then we'll finish off with Janine June's storyline. So what you really see in Rita's story, but you also see in Janine and June's story here, and when I'm talking about why the cinematography is so amazing to me in this episode, important, is because you have to look at how they're doing the lighting here. So we know what the lighting of Gilead looks like, right? Where it's always like this interior shot, but there's like light peering through really bright through different types of sources, like a window. And they set the scene with that where we first see Rita in this episode from behind and she's pouring out the flour. It looks just like it did when she was in Gilead with that light seeping in. And this will go on throughout the episode in all of Rita's scenes and in a couple of Janine and June's scenes. And to me, it's always just showing you that Gilead is always with these people. It's following these people. And especially in Rita's story, it's still a part of her and dealing with the Stockholm Syndrome she has from being in Gilead so long. So I love that this episode, the lighting in particular, speaks volumes and reminding you subconsciously about where these people have been. So what's really interesting is Moira here showing up to Rita and giving her this sad news that there's no record of her nephew or her sister in the refugee camps. And remember too, Rita has a son that we know was in the war. They haven't told us yet which side he was fighting on, but there's a lot of mystery behind Rita and her personal life. The big news for Rita here is that Serena Joy wants to see her. And what I like they did was it shows the difference of Rita's character compared to other handmaids we knew, like Moira, because Moira's like, do you know people would kill to just have an opportunity to say their piece to this woman? And that's not how Rita rolls. Rita does it a different way. She's not someone who's just going to go to your face and yell at you and air her grievances. She's going to kind of get her revenge in a very classy style. And again, the little things, I love how it transitions to when we see Serena now, that again, that Gilead light is just shining bright on her. That is all Serena stands for, right? And what's really interesting is when Serena informs Rita now of this baby, that the important, real information for Rita to hear is that Fred doesn't know about it. And this is the beginning of Rita's master plan here, that she was going to get her revenge on Serena and Fred by actually telling Fred about the baby. And it hits her hard where she says to Serena, like crying, it's a boy, because she has a son herself. And Serena wants her to help her take care of this little boy. And this is the complication Rita has with Serena. And it felt so villainous of Serena saying the line, I've missed you, my lovely Rita, because it comes from such a self-centered, oh, now I need Rita, and she's useful again to me. And never apologizing, Serena. She's not saying sorry for the way we treated you, Rita, sorry for slapping you. There's none of that. And I think what this show does well is you start to get on Serena, liking her a bit, and then you hate her again, right? But we all bash Fred. But there's a reason, because Serena is this female that you're like, come on, wake up, smell the coffee, what you're doing, what's happening. But at the end of the day, it's almost like she is really the most villainous character in the show, because she's had so many opportunities to change. She's given so many second chances. And I think they're reminding you that, and how hard it is for even people like Rita to deal with Serena, because it's just difficult. It's this bond they still sort of had, but she doesn't like Serena, but there's something there. And again, goes into the Stockholm Syndrome, and I'm not going to explain it as good as Amanda Brugel herself. And there's my advertisement during this review, because I interviewed Amanda Brugel, who plays Rita, all about this episode, and she breaks down Rita's mindset really well, better than I ever could. So check out that link to that interview down below. And what really rubs Rita the wrong way is when Mark shows up and informs her that Serena's defense attorney wants her to do an interview and basically just get her as someone to say that Serena, again, was only doing bad things because of her duress under Fred, which we know is not true. And Rita knows that. And again, it seems like people always want to give her a pass, but she's just as bad. I love the line Rita says, I was considered property of the Waterford family, registered and everything, like my old Nissan Altima. Who had in their betting pool that Rita drove a Nissan Altima in the past? Congrats. And when Rita now goes to Fred, he said it's nice to see a friendly face. And you see more of Rita's no mask on, like she kind of had with Serena towards Fred, where she's just being herself here and is like, we're not friends. You deal with your family. It's not my job anymore. And I thank God for that every day. Hands him the baby pick. Mic drop moment for Rita. Crowd pleasing moment. And he's like, I was never cruel to you. But she's like, I'll pray for your son. She definitely means that. She obviously feels bad for this child that son's parents are going to be the Waterfords. But this is huge because it's a blow, she knows, to Serena and Fred here. And this is really exciting for the storyline of the show, for Fred to already find out about this and how he's going to react to Serena. It's the best way Rita could have screwed over Serena. Now, the thing I really want to compliment is that the last shot we see of Rita here was one of the top 5 shots of this show so far to close out a storyline in an episode. That Rita here properly eats still, like that Gilead style she's holding on to, and prays over her food. But this time, it's not like that bread that she keeps eating in the Gilead food she makes for everybody. It's actually takeout sushi with a Diet Coke here. And that Gilead light is still gleaming on her, right? But it's showing you the choice of food she had here. She's transitioning a little bit out of this old life now and trying to get back to normalcy, having this takeout sushi. I thought the whole shot, everything about it, the subtext, the visual language, just speaks volumes, and it was brilliant. And it really works well again, which we'll get more into, but this ending montage to end the episode with the beautiful music by Adam Taylor. Now again, check out my interview down below with Rita herself, Amanda Brugel. Again, she does a way better job explaining all this than I would ever do. It's a really fun time, and she's super cool, so make sure to check that out. Now let's go into Janine and June's storyline. I love it. I love when a show anytime picks up right where we left off, just keeping that momentum, and it totally does here. How great is Janine's reactions to June all the time? Like, again, Janine's this innocent character, most lovable character, and she's like a little kid to June's strict mom, right? And she's like, let's go back and see if they're okay. And June's like, they're dead. I just love Madeline Brewer's reaction. She's like, no, like a little kid. It really is the best. But June's plan is for them to go west, follow the tracks, and head towards Chicago and find Mayday. But when I'm talking about this June-Janine motherly relationship she has, where I'm not going to let anything happen to you, she says, Janine, it's going to show the complications and actually highlight some of June's flaws as a leader in this episode. And it works really well. Again, we'll see as the episode goes. And there's this intense scene. I never thought I'd say that it would be an intense scene where 2 people are swimming in a tank of milk, but it was exciting, especially when that guard was up top and they had to dunk in the milk to get away. I thought it was actually a cool, unique, original setup here. But you see, Janine wants to go to sleep, but she could have a concussion, hypothermia, so June's like, you cannot go to sleep. Again, as strict as June could be, this is so important. June is to everybody. As bad as a rep she might get with the fans, I'm always going to be someone who supports June here. She's the leader. She's the one who's got to make the tough decisions. But again, I like how they highlight some of her flaws, which we'll get into. Because this is where things get really tense. And they have a really big argument here. What I love about this argument, it almost speaks to kind of the arguments we had last week after episode 3 of how responsible June is for Alma, Brienne, the other handmaids' deaths. And Janine's kind of the voice of some of the audience here. But what it sets up thematically with Janine and June's relationship is Janine saying, I'm upset I'm not in the know. I'm always taking orders, basically, from June. She says, I'm not a mushroom. You can't just keep me in the dark and feed me lies and just be okay with it. Now, this is important because what you have to remember from this scene on is that later on in the episode, in one of the flashbacks with Janine, that crazy counselor actually says to her that she doesn't like being underestimated. And it's so true about Janine. That's an important line. And it's kind of her soft spot. And that's what this episode is going to round out to, about June's flaw, too, that she underestimates Janine. And Janine's never taken seriously. And it's not healthy to treat anybody like that. And that June's got to trust more and be aware of other people's feelings there, too. And she's got to let them more in on the plans, like she's saying, and include. But you see this line Janine says to June, they were the nicest, Alma and Brianna. Maybe that's why God wanted them and not us, ... At least not you. Again, amazing delivery by Madeline Brewer here. That line just made me laugh really hard. But she's rubbing it into June here. She's like, when we were at the farm hiding, Alma's the one who said we should wait for June. They love you. And June just goes, I know that. I thought that was just so powerful. This was such a great confrontation. Confrontation in any television is always really good. And it's good to see that happening a lot this season in Handmaid's Tale. And then it gets really gritty here where Janine's like, did you tell them, the eyes, where we were? But June explains her side of it, that like, hey, they had Hannah here, you know, they were gonna hurt her, you would have done the same thing. But Janine's just like, I wouldn't have told them where we were, you know, that's why they are dead. Wow. So this is hard to watch. It's sad. It's kind of heartbreaking to see this kind of argument between the two of them. Now, again, shameless plug for me here, but I got to interview Madeline Brewer herself, who plays Janine, obviously, and she's gonna give a great answer in my interview about that line and what she really thinks Janine really believes at the end of the day. I thought it was one of the best answers I've heard in an interview. Please check that interview out. She breaks down all the stuff with Janine this episode. I think you'll really like that. You'll see a link down below. But June has this wicked line to Janine, I should have left you a long time ago. But I think June had the right to say that there after what Janine just said to her. It was a very Serena Joy-esque line by June. But it was good. You know, we're airing dirty laundry here between handmaids. They need to get this out. That's how we're going to have growth in a relationship, right? In a better relationship and healing. So we cut to the much begged for by the fans Janine flashback finally. What's amazing about this character of Janine is there's two characters of Janine here. There's pre-eye gouge Janine and post-eye gouge Janine. And she's someone you could really see that direct extreme trauma just completely change someone from the beginning. I actually forgot what the original pre-eye gouge Janine was like. We only really saw that at the beginning of season 1, so it's nice to see this again. And it's a nice touch cutting to the flashback from Janine in her handmaid's outfit that's obviously the handmaid red, and it's the handmaid red of the Denny's work outfit now. But man, did Janine pick the wrong clinic to go to. This is so interesting. I think the most interesting stuff in the show is when we see life when it was kind of transitioning to Gilead and early people in this fertility crisis that were going that way. And this is clearly this counselor here who's a complete wacko. She's prying at Janine, making her feel guilty, asking her questions that are none of her business, like if she has a boyfriend, why she wants to do this, that she should keep the baby, and just gives her all these horrible things that could happen if she has an abortion. Also wants to know if she's religious. And look, she's like, we don't even do abortions here. And that shocks Janine. And it's interesting because you're seeing again how that world was changing in the fertility crisis and how already these Gilead belief systems were forming. And really just saying awful stuff like, all women regret doing this, Janine. No one's fine after killing their baby. Whew, this is some heavy stuff, heavy duty topic here. Just that obviously relates to a lot of people going through situations like this. This is probably a very sensitive episode to people hearing lines like this. So again, make sure you're ready for this kind of stuff. It's heavy duty. But like I mentioned before, she says this line, I know you're used to being underestimated, again, which is really setting up the theme for Janine in this episode and why she does what she does at the end of the episode, which we'll get to. But again, when I'm talking about the brilliant cinematography and how he sets up his lighting, is that it cuts into present day in the milk tank, but we see the hole in the milk tank, the lights coming through, and it opens clearly with the shot focusing on that light coming through that hole onto June. Again, Gilead's always following them. But what's interesting is you hear gunshots here. They're on a Gilead train, so June makes a connection like, look, if it's someone shooting the Gilead train, these got to be allies. Maybe this is Mayday. I love when we see these scavengers, though, and they have the guns. When Janine actually finally comes out, she's just like, hi. Just so, I mean, come on. How great is Janine? And I'm not just saying that because I interviewed her. Like, I've said this since day one, and it's just always a treat, and it's good to see her getting some serious screen time here. But when you watch this episode again, you just go, oh, no. Because when that guy with the long hair comes out, he's like, why should we trust you? And June says, we'll do anything you say. We need you. So now when you look back at this, you're like, oh, God. And that's really the reason why this guy even took them on. And Janine actually read it right away, where she was like, are they Mayday? They're pretty mean. So she had that bad vibe already there. It was really cool, though, seeing this war-torn city here they're driving through. I like the show needs to go into more world building, and it's doing that, changing setting up. Just interesting. I think people really want to know what this whole country is like, and it's interesting that we're moving towards Chicago, and that the next episode is titled Chicago, which makes me really excited. Oh my Lord. And then when they go in with this guy and he's like, which one of you are staying with me? I was like, oh no. And he's like, nothing's free here. So June's like, not her. And she knows Janine's starving here. She's woozy. June does the right thing. But this guy is like maybe the scummiest we've seen yet, because he goes, guess you're used to this. Oh, I really thought June here, and I wanted her to do it, was going to bite this guy's wee-wee off. And he's like, I'm not going to force you, guys can just go. So basically, he's saying, you don't have to do this, but if you don't do it, you got to leave, right? I'm not going to feed you. He's just a piece of crap, this guy. But there you go. June's like, you're not Mayday, are you? And he's like, what's Mayday? So literally, got to get out of there. June knows that. But this is where it's really important, because Janine says to her, did he hurt you? And June's like, no, but we have to get out of here. But notice Janine says to June, okay, but change your clothes first. Basically to get June out of there to distract her. Remember, Janine feels underestimated, right? So right after that, she looks up at the guy up there. She sadly wants to prove herself useful here and make it that they can stay, and does the deed. And before we get to that final moment, it goes back to the flashback here with Janine. We see that she's actually with Caleb here, and that this was a different baby that she was going to have the abortion with. But she goes to a good doctor this time, who's understanding, not nosy, complete opposite. But she has an important line where she's like, there's these crisis pregnancy centers that lie to women to force them to keep unwanted pregnancies. Again, going into this lore of this like beginning of Gilead philosophy and this fertility crisis. But we see in a happy way, in a happy ending in the flashback, is that Janine is underestimated, but look, she proves herself here that she's capable of doing what she really believes she needs to do in this abortion without these negative voices and influences trying to give her guilt and feeling bad about it and scaring her. So she succeeds. Sadly and tragically, in the present day, she succeeds in to herself thinking she's not underestimating and can handle things on her own, but in a bad way. Because you see, what's brilliant about this last scene is that music I'm talking about that flows through this montage of Rita eating the takeout food to now Janine with June. And Janine says, we can stay. It wasn't so bad bringing her the food. June knows exactly what happened. And Janine's like, he thinks my eye patch was cool. This is really hard to watch and sad. And this is crushing to June, crushing to the audience. And June says, I'm sorry, which means so many things. It's not just a sorry for what just happened. It's a sorry for underestimating Janine, and June growing as a character and realizing that if she's going to treat Janine like a baby and that she's not able to handle things on her own or make decisions for herself or have kind of say in what they're doing, Janine might act out this way, that she's trying to prove herself and overcompensate and do things that she shouldn't be doing to herself. Really, really excellent writing, and just powerful, powerful closing scene with the music too. It just all comes full circle. Guys, I'm going to give this episode a 10. Call me crazy, but I can't find one flaw in it, which I always find flaws in everything I review, basically. I'm so nitpicky. I was trying. I couldn't. And the music's amazing. The acting's amazing. The writing's amazing. The cinematography's amazing. That goes to the lighting he's doing here. Amazing directing and writing by these two women, just in particular. Just awesome. And it proves you don't always need a big moment in a show to have a 10. You know, like, this just clicks on all cylinders. Just what the theme is, every faction of it, everything counts here and lands. And it sticks with me. I think this is something I will think about as an episode. And I thought it's incredible that an episode 4 of an already really good season can do this. Because usually you would think after that big episode 3, it would kind of come down and maybe be too slow or just catch up. But it doesn't do that. It slows the pace down, but everything is powerful here and works and is interesting and keeps you invested. So it's a 10 for me. I think this is one of the best episodes of The Handmaid's Tale ever. And if you don't agree right now, watch it one more time. Trust me, this one is just a masterpiece. Now, like I said, I'm really excited because I got to interview Madeline Brewer and Amanda Brugel, Rita and Janine, and we talk all about this episode in both interviews, so please check those out. I really appreciate all the support. And I also interviewed Nick, Alma, and Mark himself last week, so you can check those interviews out as well. And if you really like what I do here, you can support me by a $2 monthly donation you can commit to. It's a PayPal link down below. That's to just help me get my dream of doing this full time one day and make more videos for you guys. And if you can just subscribe to the channel in general, that helps me in so many ways you have no idea. Please comment below with your thoughts. I read every comment and try to respond as many as I can. And please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter and Instagram for more of me. And I'll see you next time.